I didn't think my story was inspiring, not even a little bit. When I would hear other people talk about what God did in their lives, it always sounded big, clear, undeniable. And I would sit there thinking, I don't have that kind of story. I didn't meet my husband in some beautiful, God ordained moment. I didn't have this dramatic overnight life change that everybody could point to. Even in my health, yes, I had emergency surgery. Yes, God brought me through. Yes, He helped me. But it wasn't this big, spectacular before and after moment where everything just instantly changed.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Fearfully Made, Faithfully Single. This is the final episode of season 2. Can you believe it? We've been through another dozen episodes. And I am so thankful for you taking the time to share part of your day, part of a moment of your life, to listen to what I had to say. Thank you. Well, I've been really sitting with what I wanted to say because I didn't want to just end the season. I wanted to be honest about what this season has actually taught me. For a long time, I really believed if your story doesn't look dramatic, then people probably don't want to hear it. It may not be that impactful. If it doesn't have that wow factor, it may be not worth sharing. And I didn't just think that about other people. I thought that about myself. Even when it came to my physical journey, have I worked out? Yes. Have I shown up consistently? Yes. Have I tried different things and pushed myself? Absolutely. But I didn't have the story where it was like, look at her before and look at her now. No, I had a story of trying, a story of learning, of starting and stopping, of figuring out what works for me. And if I'm really honest, that made me feel like, what do I have to say that's going to help anybody? Because in my mind, testimonies were supposed to be dramatic. But the Bible says in Revelations chapter 12, verse 11, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. It doesn't say the most impressive testimony. It just says their testimony. And that's when it started to change for me. I realized maybe I've been overlooking my own story because it doesn't look like someone else's. Because what I discovered was this: the miracle wasn't in a moment. It was in the becoming. Becoming a woman over 50. Becoming a woman who is single, not dating, not waiting on somebody to show up. Becoming a woman who, because of a radical hysterectomy, physically cannot have children. And I had to come to peace with that. Not pretend, not brush it off, not act like it didn't matter, but really come to peace with it. And still live a full life. Still find joy, still be fulfilled, still be able to say, I am blessed. Because the Bible says in Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12, I have learned in whatsoever state I am, wherewith to be content. That word learned matters because that means it didn't happen overnight. And that's when it clicked for me. Me becoming the best version of myself was the miracle. And the story of just me, it's enough. Because when you look at the Bible, God has always used women whose stories didn't look perfect. He used Leah. Poor Leah. Oh my goodness. I've heard her called in countless sermons and they dog her out. A woman who felt overlooked and unloved. But still, God used her. Leah wasn't the one Jacob wanted, but God opened her womb, and through her came sons, including Judah. And Judah is part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. The woman who felt rejected carried legacy. That story is found in Genesis chapter 29, verses 31 through 35. Oh, and Rahab, a woman labeled by her past, but God still used her. Rahab made a decision to trust God even in the middle of her life, just as it was. And not only was she spared, she became part of the lineage of Jesus. Her past didn't disqualify her, it positioned her. Her story is found in Joshua chapter 2 and Matthew chapter 1, verse 5. He heard Hannah, a woman who was misunderstood in her pain, crying out so deeply that people thought she was drunk. But God heard her and gave her Samuel, a prophet. Her private pain produced public purpose. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 10 through 20. And he saw Hagar, a woman who was cast aside, alone, forgotten. But God met her in the wilderness, and she called him the God who sees me. Even when nobody else saw her, God did. Genesis chapter 16, verses 7 through 13. And so I had to ask myself, if God used them, why wouldn't he use me? Because 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9 says, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. So I stopped hiding parts of my story. I stopped waiting for something bigger to happen. I stopped thinking I needed to qualify myself first. My life may not look like what I imagined, but it is full. It is blessed, and it has purpose. God didn't wait for me to get it all right. He used me anyway. So if this episode spoke to you, if you've ever felt like your story wasn't enough, I want you to hear me clearly. Your story matters. Your life matters. And God can use you right where you are. And if this blessed you, share it with another woman who needs to hear it. Because somebody out there needs the version of the story that looks like yours. I love you so much, and I'll talk to you again real soon.